Welcome to Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And the Damned.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. At FitandTrim on Twitter. And with me as a... Wait a minute. I'm all by myself here at the kitchen table. And across Skype, it's Mork. Mork, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I can see everything, Bubba. I can see everything. I'm doing great.
Well, that is great. We just finished up part 9 of Twin Peaks The Return. This is the chair.
Not the water, not the well, but the chair.
Let's get to it, Mork. Part 9. What is your ranking out of 10?
Oh, man. I'm going to give it 6 double C's.
Double C's?
Yeah, 6 coop-flown coops. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it overall.
Okay.
But I felt like we were kind of spinning our wheels a little bit. And, I certainly wasn't, part of me was definitely glad that we weren't trying to outdo episode 8 because I think my head would have exploded. But, I think sorry. I think one of the things that episode 8, they're clearly putting so much faith and trust in the audience to just stay with them. And then this week, it kind of felt like they were going to connect a lot of dots that I don't know if they needed to be connected. So, but it was fun to be back with DougieCoop. It was fun to be back with Mr. C, and see Bobby and Hawk and the gang. So I enjoyed it, but I'm just giving it 6 double C's or even 6 double F's.
Double F's?
Frisky Fritos.
Well, Mork, is this your lowest ranking you've ever given an episode? You're pretty tough on part 9.
I am pretty tough on it, and part of it is because, episode 8 it just got the juices flowing, So I think I may have thrown out an episode 7 for episode 4. So this might be my lowest. If it's not my lowest, then it's my second. It's a tie for my lowest. So yeah, this is we're halfway through, and I still feel like the story is expanding, and I want it to be tightening up and just kind of maybe not rounding third because we're only halfway through, but rounding second. And I think we're still kind of dancing off of first base, to mix so many metaphors.
On some stories, yeah. In some stories, it feels like we're up at the plate. The 2 women at the end of the episode there at the Twin Peaks Roadhouse, the woman with the rash, yeah, it feels like they're stepping up to the plate and their storyline hasn't got up to bat.
Yeah.
I think I liked it a bit more than you. I'm going to give it 7 double D's out of 10.
Double D's?
Well, double D's stands for Director Door Jams. There's a hilarious moment in the scene. Do you see it with David Lynch as Gordon Cole is coming out to where Diane is smoking and the door kind of hits him and he kind of starts giggling? That was a fun moment. It felt like an unscripted moment as he's trying to keep character as the door, which Tammy Preston opened, kind of swings back and knocks him for a little jolt.
Yeah.
I think what is happening, and so many people say, oh, you can't judge it like every other TV show. It's an 18-part movie. I really think that this would play better if you could shotgun it. Why? Mm-hmm. Because I was talking about narrative momentum after part 8. And one of the things in some storylines in tonight's episode, part 9, the characters are finding out things that we as an audience kind of have known a month ago.
Right.
And so the fact that Gordon and his team of FBI agents are just now finding out about Briggs when we, in the real time of watching the show, knew about it a month ago, I think that personally makes me a bit tougher on this episode than I normally would be.
Right.
There were things I really loved in it, and I want to talk about those. The things I really loved on it is where it did feel like it was building. It did feel like there was gaining narrative momentum and just, I thought, some really amazing performances. I don't know if I talk enough about the actors on this show and amazing performances, but I really felt parts of this had some amazing performances. So I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Double L's, loyal listeners, let us know what you think. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcasts, plural, facebook.com/double P podcast, and let us know what you think. Before we get into the episode proper, Mork, we've had wonderful listeners entering the contest by giving us some iTunes reviews. These are so wonderful. We got so many. Let's jump into some real quick. From the USA iTunes Store, we have one from Spec 009. Spec 009. 5-star review, let's rock. Spec 009 writes, I've been looking for a great Twin Peaks podcast, and I finally found it. It's a shame that I found it so late. So late. We just got halfway through season 3. I would have loved to have won the Secret History of Twin Peaks book, but oh well, I'll still buy it. Hey, Spec 009, by giving us this iTunes review, and if you like our Facebook page, you can win one. We're going to be giving away one, not signed, but we are going to be giving another hard copy away of the Secret Histories, so just let it know it. Spec 009 finishes his review. These guys are legit fans. They know their stuff. Thanks for the great show. Oh, well, thank you for the very kind review.
Yeah, thanks, Spec 009. I was going to say Foot by Yord, and then I looked at it a little closer, and then it's Football Lord. They write great podcast, 5 stars. These guys are great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very humorous and great at trying to explain what it is we are watching. They're very honest about their thoughts on the show, good or bad. Thanks for the book recommendations of the Secret History of Twin Peaks. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Football Lord.
Thank you, Football Lord. This next review, I think we have to be, if we're going to share our 5-star reviews, we also have to share our 3-star reviews. Why don't you take this one, Bubba? This one's kind of tough.
All right, so it's from a user by the name of C emojis. I can't even say
Double
exactly
emoji.
which. Yeah, I can't even figure out what emojis they are. But the title of the review is Test. It's a 3-star review, and the review says Test. So, see emoji. Yes, one of the emojis does look a bit like the Owl Cave ring symbol, so I really do love that. And so, a 3-star review. Thank you so much, Test. Like the Facebook page, you'll be entered to win all the prizes, like some of the pop figures, books, coasters, some of the things we're going to be giving away at the end of the season at part 18.
So our next review is from my a farm fan, and it's called My Favorite. It's a 5-star review. First Twin Peaks podcast I found, and still my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a proud double L here.
Double L.
Loyal listener. This podcast has helped me weather a tough time in my life, and I just love listening to Bubba and Mork give me their observations week after week.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, and actually, it's Angela Mills from Facebook, who we love hearing from. So, Angela, we're giving you 6 stars.
Yeah, you're better than this podcast, that's for sure. Final review from here in the USA iTunes Store. 5-star review by Havail. The title of the review is Better Than an Egg Full of Frog Roaches.
Oh, man.
Never watched Twin Peaks when it was originally on, but I caught up on the first 2 seasons based on Bubba's enthusiasm for the show. Love the recap, insight, and short declarative sentences as I try to make sense of season 3 of David Lynch's Fever Dream. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, we love new fans. We love old fans. We love anybody who's on this crazy journey of Twin Peaks with us.
Yes, we are scared and terrified, and there's strength in numbers. Let's go outside of these beautiful borders and head over to our friends on the other side of the pond in the UK from Wheezy UK. Hello, this is 5 stars. If anyone wants to understand what they just watched, then this is the best place to start. I found this podcast and didn't bother looking for another. Bubba and Mork are so well informed and have so many great ideas and insights. I find myself nodding in agreement often and also listening in wonder as they decipher things with their vast knowledge that I would never have been able to as a relatively new fan. A great listen, and I look forward to the next episode of the podcast almost as much as I look forward to the show. Wow. That is high praise indeed, and we hope that Wheezy UK doesn't learn too much about the show, because if they do, then they'll find out that we've basically just been winging it this whole time.
From the wonderful country of Sweden, we have a review from Washing Machine. 5 stars, lots of love from Sweden. You guys make my days at work so much easier. I listen to your podcast every week while driving my forklift, thinking about Twin Peaks. Heck yeah, what? Washing Machine.
That is true. And then let's head down under. This is from Jackaroo. My favorite, 5 stars. Man, oh man, are we lucky. Jackaroo says, I really enjoy hearing these reviews after each episode. Bubba and Mork have such a passion for Twin Peaks. I feel less lonely listening, as none of my friends caught the Twin Peaks bug. You guys are my favorite. Keep up the good work, and I will stay a double L.
Man, if the Twin Peaks bug is the infamous frog fly, maybe you don't want your friends to catch the Twin Peaks bug. You know what I mean? Whoa.
Well, maybe they deserve it if they're not watching.
Mork, as we jump into part 9, we're going to be going through all our South Dakota fun. Then we're going to hop across the country and go down to Vegas. But what happens in Vegas this week, I think, will not stay in Vegas now that they've taken Dougie Jones' prints off the coffee cup. Then we're going to end up in everybody's favorite town, the namesake of the show, Twin Peaks. So, Dakota, are you ready?
Let's do this. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm not as ready as those poor farmers
oh no,
who made the mistake of letting Chantal and what's that guy's name, Tim Ross?
Hutch.
Thank you.
He's Hutch. I think it might be short for Hutchinson. But now we met him. I was gonna say, there's some people that we saw in parts 1 and part 2. You know, James Hurley, he's been a blink and you miss him. Mm-hmm. Nadine Hurley, a blink and you miss her. We haven't seen Big Ed or Audrey or so many people that we'd be interested in seeing. Chantal, I was wondering when we were going to get back to her, but she and her husband have a very, would you call it an open marriage? They really share a lot.
Yeah, they seem to be... Well, they seem to put work first, and which I think, I mean, for any, startup company, there's a little bit of esprit de corps that's necessary. But, it's a little much. Maybe I'm sure there's a lot we don't know. But so we do see Mr. C strutting up, and he sort of looks like Danny Terrio had just finished auditioning for Scarface as he struts up to this farm, and he is worse for wear. I mean, he's healthy, he's alive. Chantal still has to do some work on him, but just the fact that he's walking is pretty miraculous after what happened to him last week when Ray, plugged him in the belly a couple of times.
Yes, he looked rough. Now, Chantal took him and he got cleaned up somehow. You wonder what this doppelganger, Mr. C, what cleaning up she could possibly do to him, because if bullets don't kill him, nothing will. She gives him a new phone, and this phone, I love it. It looks bedazzled. This flip phone looks bedazzled, and we'll get to the text message he sends to a bit later in it. But Chantal and Hutch, they gave him a phone, and the phone confirms what we have also suspected. That is, Mr. C has been behind the hit job on DougieCoop. Yeah.
So he is getting ready. He has got a lot of he's got a lot on his plate. He knows that he's been he's been double crossed by Ray. He needs to get some guns. He needs to get some tools. It was sort of interesting. I thought this was really cool because
he gets into a pickup truck, drives away. Mr. C, we believe, still needs those coordinates that Ray was going to get to him from Bill Hastings' secretary. We assume.
Which we assume, and not to go too far afield here, but apparently other people have this info that a lot more people are about to have this info. So I was a little surprised that Mr. C is out of the loop on this because for the most part he seems to be, Ray shooting him in the belly, of course, notwithstanding, he seems to be ahead of so many of the other characters in the show.
Mork, one of the big things we talked about after Part 8 was, is Bob still with Mr. C? I have to be honest, I don't think there's any way you can get that from the little bit we saw of Mr. C today. I think you just have to assume that we will find that out in a bit. But where can Mr. C go? What's funny is if he wants some coordinates, people online have found out that they've made a real-life site blog that Bill Hastings was working on, and buried on that site are some coordinates which point to a place in western South Dakota. Theoretically, the place where Bill Hastings, later in the episode, says he found the zone, the alternate dimension.
So I don't. This is an example of a little quibble that I have about this episode, where it's not that Bill Hastings or Ruth Davenport found what these coordinates are that bugs me. What does rub me a little bit the wrong way is that there was a website that was talking about all of this stuff, and apparently Mr. C was either unaware of it or he's having to work through intermediaries to get to. I mean, someone is being very vocal and sharing this information on the World Wide Web. Does Mr. C really need to jump through all of these hoops to get this information from Bill and Ruth? I don't know. It feels like it might be a little bit like swatting a mosquito with a sledgehammer. That is Mr. C's style, which I'm totally fine with. But I was a little, when I heard that there was a blog, it's kind of like, well, it just seems like this information shouldn't be as hard to come by as it clearly is.
Well, this real-life website, thesearchforthezone.com, it has coordinates hidden on it that people have found. We don't know if this is just a promotional website out in the real world that you could see. We don't know if on the show Gordon and his team will be able to find these coordinates. But let's get to Gordon, because as Diane, everybody I assume was flying back to Philadelphia, Colonel Davis calls. The threads are coming together here at the halfway point. Like you said, everything's trying to come together. We're finding out that Gordon has to meet up with Lieutenant Knox in Buckhorn, South Dakota. And poor Diane gets waylaid onto this side trip as well.
Yeah, no, she doesn't have too much of a choice. So they get there. And so this was something that, a few weeks back, you thought I was being intentionally obtuse, and I saw where you were going, and I saw that definitely that it was possible, but I felt like we needed to have a little bit more of these clues together in the real world, not just in visions and kind of alternate dimensions. When it comes to, who does the headless body belong to? But you definitely nailed it. That is and was, Major Briggs. But along the way, while they're still they're heading there, they're going to meet with Lieutenant Knox to look into this. Did you find it a little curious that, particularly with the history of Project Blue Book and what the Air Force had been involved in, and the Milford boys, or really just one of the Milford boys, that the Air Force is there, but they're just leaving it up to the FBI to do the investigating when it's one of their own who has been found decapitated?
If I understand correctly, the show is implying that this has been something going on for quite a long time. These popping ups of possible Major Briggs sightings, Major Briggs viewings, whatever you want to call these things. And so
sure.
the the back and forth between the two agencies appears to have been handled before this point we are in time ever took place. So it didn't bother me. I kind of like Lieutenant Knox. I hope she joins in on this team. And let's be honest, it's a growing team. We've got Albert, Tammy, Gordon, Diane dragged along. And I'm saying let's get Lieutenant Knox in there too. So this is a big team that just keeps growing. And so I kind of like Lieutenant Knox. I'm like, let's bring her in. And we should point out the person running the forensics for Buckhorn, she has a little moment of flirtation, I felt, with Albert, and I thought, oh man, these two might be perfect for each other. This could be the love connection. You were talking about how in the original Twin Peaks, there were all these couples you wanted to root for. Are you ready to root for Constance and Albert to bond over bodies, to consummate their love of corpses? What do you think about these two?
I was a little disappointed. I guess halfway through, we haven't seen Albert with a white coat on and some rubber gloves.
He needs his drill. He needs his brain drill. Oh, but if Major Briggs doesn't have a head, he can't use his awesome brain drill like he wanted to use on Laura.
That is true. That is definitely true. It's really only good for the skull. I mean, and those tools, they're pricey. You don't want to just use them on a rib cage or a kneecap, and then you got to sharpen them up. It's not worth it. But I will say this: any sane and logical woman would be totally flirtatious with Special Agent Albert Rosenfeld. So I did love. He wasn't directing it at Constance at all, but he did have a couple of fun zingers.
What was your sorry to interrupt you, Mork. What was your favorite zinger? Because my favorite zinger was what happens in season 2. That was so good.
Well, I liked that. I think I preferred fruitcake anyone.
Oh, okay. I thought he was going to say, so what happened in season 2? And then somebody was going to quip, well, little Nikki and Evelyn Marsh kind of ruined it, but
probably. I would have definitely seconded that. But one thing that is sort of interesting with Albert this season is that he seems to be fulfilling a role that Truman played in Harry Truman, that is, played in season 1, in terms of being a little skeptical and a little Albert just by what happens in season 2 really is it's right on the nose in terms of this season there's a lot going on. Ever since you, Bubba, invited people to plot check you, we haven't really spent time with that because I think it would take maybe 90 minutes to run down the plot at this point, So it feels like Albert is calling out some of that stuff, and I'm enjoying it, and it's great to. It's great to see him. I mean, he can deliver any line. He can make any line as sharp as one of Constance's scalpels. But I really enjoyed him having a couple of good zingers this week.
Mork, I'm going to leave that entire bit in that you just said, which I normally would edit to down to the bone, just so people can understand why I occasionally say short declarative sentences. Oh my Lord.
Well, I got to where I needed to go.
Yeah, you took us on a trip to the farm, but also to Grandma's house. You took us to the supermarket. That was a great sentence. So, okay, quickly, though, Constance shows them a key to DougieCoop and Janie E. in Vegas. Besides the fingerprints that the Vegas cops got, you can definitely see all these threads coming together, everything coming together. But perhaps the craziest moment I felt was this section here where Diane received the text message from Mr. C. Around the dinner table, the conversation is lively. Holy smokes,
Yeah,
Diane. Is Diane possibly in on it, or is Mr. C taunting her? What in the world is happening here? More.
Oh, I think, and when they were on the plane, she received a call from a blocked number. And so I am expecting that to have also been, Mr. C. And she did not seem to be that concerned by it. If it's coming from a blocked number and it's kind of a nonsense, message, I get, random text messages all the time, mainly because I don't know how Kik works. But,
yeah, I'm also going to leave that in. This is we're torturing the viewers. I want the viewers to see what I sit through every week.
It's not fair. No, she was not. She took that with aplomb. I mean, and she was not. She's surrounded by FBI agents. She did not run to any of them. Oh my gosh, I just got a very strange communication from some. I mean, there was none of that. I mean, she's playing it close to the vest. So either she's in on it, which I have a hard time believing. And maybe she's got her own plan because she knows he's the bad guy, and she knows she's got to get rid of him to maybe get back. Maybe she knows that only one of these guys can be outside the lodge at a time. I don't know, but she seemed to be playing along.
Mork, if I could jump in.
Do it, please.
The one thing about this message is it really makes me think about Fire Walk with Me and Lil again. Mm-hmm. Lil seemed to be a one-time thing now that we've seen so much of Season 3, where when she was introduced in Fire Walk with Me, Chet Desmond and Gordon, they made it seem like Lil was something they do all the time. So right. I wonder if somehow you could unscramble this text message, and this is maybe a code that she and Cooper used to use before Cooper became Mr. C. I can't imagine, based on everything we've seen, that Diane is really somehow connected with Mr. C in an evil way. So my thought process went to, just like I said, that this is some sort of code that Coop and Diane used to have, and it's coming back, and hopefully we'll find out more about this in part 10 or part 11.
Yeah, no, it definitely does open up another door, which, and it does feel like we might be kind of getting back to soap opera territory with, there's definitely other elements going on, but it does feel like, Cole, it feels like has more than one motive, and most of them are probably ulterior. Diane now seems to. There's a lot of people back in Eastern and or Washington State who we don't really know where they stand and where they're gonna, what role that they're gonna play in the larger piece. Whether it's Ben or Jerry or even Richard Horne. I don't think Johnny Horne's gonna be doing much next week or any other week after tonight.
Poor Johnny Horne.
Poor Johnny. But yeah, so it's definitely fun to see someone like the great Laura Dern, getting to play with keeping something in her back pocket. And it does. I mean, the one thing that just in terms of the growing posse. If it's now Cole, Albert, Diane, Knox, this is plus Agent Tammy Preston, who has not really distinguished herself in terms of being worthy for being the sort of the keeper of the dossier that makes up the Secret History of Twin Peaks, the great book that everyone should read, whether at the library or by stealing it. But it's curious to me that she hasn't really stood out yet. We're halfway through. Maybe she will. Maybe other people are going to be removed from the proceedings one way or another, and she'll have to step up. But I'm still waiting for her to really come to the fore as a major character, which you would think she would be because she's featured so prominently in the book.
I thought that when Gordon went out to smoke with Diane, and Tammy went out as well. They're continuing this reality that everybody Diane meets, she's going to say, fuck you two. And you can tell she doesn't still like Tammy. But the fact that she is rebonding with Gordon, I think, is a good sign. But Tammy, you're right, Mork. It's felt at times almost like she's acting like a secretary. Here, let me get you your coffee, Gordon. But the fact they gave her that moment with Bill Hastings, I really, really liked it. I thought it was good. And so why don't we get to her kind of shining moment, and that is Bill breaking down and revealing a lot of things that Bill's going through a tough time.
Well, Bill is going through a tough time, but Tammy didn't have to play too much good cop bad cop. Bill was pretty ready to chat by the time she showed up. So he starts talking, and I mentioned this earlier in terms of all of the things that he knows. I guess another reason why it does kind of rub me the wrong way is, we're sitting here trying to piece together, all of this information. We've read The Secret History. We've seen all the other episodes. We've seen Fire Walk with Me. Somehow Bill Hastings in South Dakota just cracks the code without the aid of watching any of these great episodes or reading any of these books. I feel a little stupid. I'm not going to lie.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mork.
Hit me.
We've seen all these things. Did Bill Hastings do it? Did Bill Hastings actually kill the librarian, Ruth Davenport, that he loved?
No.
Did he get forced to do it by these people? Well, his fingerprints are there. Remember, he said he kind of saw it in a dream. I know that doesn't really feel like if Bill Hastings is guilty or not really play that much into the larger narrative of it. But I kind of want to know if Bill actually did it, if he was like a Leland where people were kind of sort of forcing him to do it, or if he went into what he's calling the zone, what we would call one of the lodges, one of the red rooms, if you will, possibly, and if all the people who were there in the red room made him do it. So what do you think? I think because his fingerprints were there and because he saw it in a dream, I still think Bill Hastings is good. He did it. Right. And is going to have to go to jail. Spend the rest of his life in jail.
Well, I guess I'd put it to you this way. If you were Bob, would you want to hang out with Bill Hastings?
Jump into Bill Hastings' body? Well, he kind of feels like a chump like Leland might have felt like a chump. Of course, Bob got Leland when Leland was a boy.
Right.
And so I don't know.
I don't think so. And I mean, a big reason I don't think so is just because when we saw Mr. C kill, Bill Hastings' wife, she was shot exactly the same way that Ruth Davenport was shot. So I think they dispatched of her. They're obviously they're very good, with they have tools that we do not understand at their disposal, whether it's punching in long strings of touchtones on a telephone, or the magical cell phone tape recorder that Mr. C had earlier. So planting evidence, getting his prints on it, his DNA, that doesn't seem to be too much of a challenge for Mr. C and Chantal, and the gang. So he may be stuck in prison, forever. I'm not too concerned about that. But I am concerned that there are going to be, at this point, and this for me is, we saw Mr. C open up jail cells by punching in a handful of numbers and making lights go on and off. Is it crazy to think that he wouldn't be aware of this conversation that's happening, particularly because of he's in touch with Diane? So is this the conversation, Hastings and Tammy Preston? Is this the conversation around the dinner table? I don't know, but it feels like, as you said, earlier when you were giving your rating about how the characters are learning things that we've known for a couple of weeks, or we've at least been pretty certain about. This is another example of that.
If I can interrupt you, Mork, let's get to the new information. He and Ruth Davenport, they get into the zone. They see Major Briggs. They describe it as Major Briggs was hiding there, but apparently Major Briggs described it as hibernating. I believe that's
right.
what Bill Hastings is trying to explain to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was hibernating from these other people, probably somebody like Mr. C. These numbers that, help me out, Ruth wrote on her hand, but we don't know where the rest of Ruth's body is. So somebody must have those numbers, right? Somebody must know the thing she wrote on her hand.
Well, somebody must know, and let's save that. Let's get to Eastern and or Western Washington State to talk about the other part of that, because there's
you think it was the things that Major Briggs hid in the chair.
Well, he's being very specific. He saw into the future, saying that there was going to be a day where, Bobby, all grown up, and Sheriff Truman, maybe not the Sheriff Truman, along with Deputy Hawk, all show up asking for something. He named that. Bobby was the only person who knew how to open this little, miniature cigarillo box. He was also the only person who understood what sorry, I'm going through my notes, but
let me.
The cat was, who is in question, in terms of. So Bobby had all of these clues. So, are those the numbers that were in, when Hawk actually has amazing insight, as he always does when he says two Coopers, when it says Cooper.
They got the coordinates. They brought them back to the zone, to Major Briggs. And that's when, quote unquote, something terrible happened. So we're finding these things out. I want to point out that when Bill Hastings circles the picture of Major Briggs and he dates it, he dates it as 9/20. So this would be obviously September 20th. Later on, we're going to find out that Major Briggs in the Twin Peaks timeline, seemingly, if those are dates on the Major Briggs note, are for the beginning of October.
Right.
So
which is supposed to be the next 2 days.
Right. So these segments aren't happening at the same time. These timelines are happening, I guess, within weeks of each other, but they're not happening. The moment that we're seeing in South Dakota is happening about a week before the segment we see with Bobby, Hawk, and Sheriff Truman. Are we done with Bill Hastings, do you think? Or has now all our heroes have everything they need to go forward?
Well, maybe if they also, my favorite quote of Bill Hastings was that he does a lot of reading, and so maybe if Gordon and Tammy Preston and Diane would just do a lot of reading themselves, then they would have also figured out how to get to the zone. But no, so I think we'll see where this goes, and there's the the second side of this coin that we should we'll talk about. And some pretty large moments that happened back in Twin Peaks. So should we head over there?
Well, if it's okay, let's go to Vegas. Let's save Twin Peaks for the end.
Yeah, let's do Vegas.
All right. So we go to the Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. DougieCoop's boss, Bushnell's, talking to the three cops. He's standing up for Dougie Jones, and he's also possibly explaining why everybody isn't freaking out about the very, very slow Dougie.
Exactly, yeah.
He's implying that he was told, at least, this doesn't mean it was happened, but he was told that Dougie had a car accident before he started working there at the insurance firm. And so maybe that's why so few people are reacting to the very slow, emphasis on slow, Dougie Jones.
Yeah, and the other thing, one thing that I liked is if you remember from when we're in the Lucky Seven insurance agency or insurance company, and we're in Bushnell's office, we saw that he used to be a bit of a prize fighter, and you see that he is not enjoying being, he kind of feels like he's being condescended to a little bit. So you see him as the scene goes on, he starts to clench his fists a little bit.
Oh yeah, he's putting up his dukes. He's ready.
And I was ready for him to take a swing at somebody, anybody, but he did not. So, but during this conversation, the great Dave Koechner, who plays one of the officers, he's probably let's say he's the most attractive of these three police officers.
Let's not body shame anybody, Mork. What are you doing here?
No. Well, he's purely in personality, but he has a great idea to do the old switcheroo. He sees how much Coop or DougieCoop loves his coffee, and so he brings him a fresh cup. And now he does kind of get his hands all over the old cup, but they get,
right. He's gonna smudge all the prints.
He sort of
hey guys,
yeah, good news. And maybe Dave Koechner is has the secret coordinates as well. No, but but so they're going to turn that over for evidence, and they're going to dust it, and they learn some pretty interesting things as well.
Yeah, so let's get to it. They looked into Dougie Jones's past, as anybody would. No existence of Dougie Jones before 1997. Exactly. No driver's license, passport, social. So back when we first met Dougie Jones, Mike, the one-armed man in the Red Room, in the Black Lodge, he said you were manufactured for a purpose. So they made Dougie Jones. Once again, I'm going to assume that it was Mr. C made Dougie Jones. Now let's put this in a timeline. That's about 8 years after the events of the original series.
Right.
He made Dougie Jones, theoretically, for this moment we witnessed when Cooper exited the lodge, so that he can hire these guys in Vegas to kill Dougie Jones, get rid of the other half of Cooper. Doppel Cooper, Mr. C, lives on in infamy for the rest of the time. Really smart plan by Mr. C. He's an evil bastard, but he really kind of thought this through. Good work. Good work there, buddy.
I mean, so this is why I call him an anti-hero.
You can respect him. Now, Janie Jones, yes. She said she was going to take DougieCoop to the doctor. Do you think we'll see that? Do you think he'll ever get there? He has been having a rough time, old DougieCoop. And maybe, just maybe, he has another clue that's going to get him out of this craziness. He sees the flag, 4th of July, America the Beautiful is playing. Mm-hmm. Then a woman walks by in some very familiar red shoes. Do you not see these red shoes and think Audrey Horne? Hello. Wonderful.
Right. And then he sees the shoes, and then he also sees the electrical socket.
Electricity. So good. Even I occasionally look at Twitter during these episodes, and there is still a contingency of people who are very frustrated with poor Cooper being stuck as DougieCoop.
Yeah, I am one of them, and for sure, and because we're starting to see flashes of him, but then he starts up when when Ike the Spike tried to attack him, and it wasn't with the spike because the spike was more of I guess more of a back scratcher at that point, but when they and am I jumping too far ahead to talk about what DougieCoop did to him when he wrestled him to the ground, or when he was
he ripped off his grip. Whoa.
I don't understand exactly how that happens. I love that it did, but it does. It's like, okay, Coop seems to kind of have his, the kung fu is working. Why aren't we seeing the other? Why aren't we seeing the rest of his personality, the rest of his memories, the rest of his abilities. Why aren't we seeing that yet? So that is definitely something that I'm definitely a little bit frustrated with as well.
I've just been willing to, I guess, because I've accepted and had it in my head that we would have at least. The last time we saw DougieCoop in Part 7, I was like, there's at least 5 more episodes of DougieCoop. And DougieCoop really hasn't had kind of a starring role in any of these episodes. We've seen him for little bits in Part 7, in little bit in tonight's Part 9. So I think we're going to be with him at least 4 more episodes. I'll do my countdown to when I think we'll see good old Agent Cooper. So I have been able to roll with it. Somebody who's not going to be able to roll too soon is Ike the Spike. Is he going to roll over and give up the ghost now that he's been arrested?
Let's
predict. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen to him? You think he's going to give up the ghost? Or is he such a professional, he'll just shut up and won't tell the cops nothing?
I think that he will not only not tell them anything. I think that Ike the Spike will. I think he will somehow take his own life, or he'll have some sort of cyanide pill that he'll swallow. He knows that if he says anything to these guys, that Mr. C and his gang, his employers, who he is far more terrified of than anyone, he does this stuff because he's afraid of what's going to happen to him if he doesn't. At least that's my gut feeling of anybody who works with Mr. C. So
yeah, there's a chance that Mr. C is going to send Chantel and Hutch to take care of this problem as well. You know what I mean?
Well, Mr. C gave. He said first take care of the warden, then take care of 2 people. I was assuming in Vegas. I was assuming he was talking about DougieCoop and Janie. But we'll see. Maybe look, 2's a party, 3's company. So why not? Mr. C can definitely add to that list.
Well, Ike the Spike did call his contact in Vegas from his hotel room. The police are going to be able to trace that call, find out who he called. I think this whole thing could be blowing up, and Mr. C, he's really going to have a lot of people after him. Gordon found out that he broke out of prison in this episode. You would think we're going to have an all-points bulletin for Mr. C, and he's going to use some of that crazy technology he has to be able to escape what's coming.
Well, it's a good thing he's driving around in a very discreet 4x4 that's on monster truck wheels. And he won't be noticed. He won't be noticed at all. I was sort of thinking about between just a quick aside, between Diane and Janie Jones. I would love to have a scene between those two. They do not take any guff. These are 2 very direct, very strong women, and I'd love to get them in a room together and see them have a chat, because I don't think that Janie Jones is going to shy away from Diane's charming personality. But I don't know. It might be too much to wish for, but I do enjoy. I can't not look at them when they're on screen. They really do. They chew up the scenery in such a fun way.
I think we could be getting a fuck-off battle between Diane and Janie E. Jones. They'd both be dishing it out, and possibly, find a kindred spirit in it.
Yeah, I think they would definitely end up, whatever the scene was, they would end up high-fiving at the end of it. But that may have to happen, because I would assume that. That's DougieCoop's wedding ring. They're going to have to give it back to him. It's in. Who has that now? I mean, that's Albert has that.
Well, Albert and his team have it. Of course.
Okay, so they'll track down. They'll track down Dougie and Janie. I expect. and maybe that's what does it. But I am looking forward to, I don't know if it's going to be that, particularly a gold ring, which has a lot of significance in the history of the show. If that was the key that brought everyone back together, that could be pretty cool. We'll have to find out, though.
Mork, let's travel to Twin Peaks. We had a beautiful shot of the sun bursting through the trees behind the Twin Peaks Sheriff Station. We go in and we find Lucy and Andy having a bit of serendipity. This part has the little subtitle, "This is the chair." Lucy and Andy are looking at chairs themselves, and sure enough, they pick the red chair in just a bit. The red chair is going to play a big part going forward at Betty Briggs's house.
It's true.
Did you like this? Did you like this moment between Lucy and Andy? Oh, no.
No. I felt like either, going back to the first couple episodes where, Lucy was, the trouble with the cell phones and with Sheriff Truman and all that. I'm hoping that there's a larger significance, and maybe you just pointed out what it was in terms of, the chairs that they're looking for. But I was expecting, the Nine Inch Nails to start playing on either Andy or Lucy's computer at some point when they kept going back and forth, between them. I felt you were talking about narrative momentum. I thought that this sequence kind of slowed that down a bit for me this episode.
Another storyline, Mork, that may be starting on getting up to the bat in your vernacular, is we visit the Horne residence. Sylvia Horne is calling out for Mary, who we might assume is a nurse, because Johnny Horne is really having some issues. He's running around and he smacks his head into a wall. Oh, my goodness.
He puts a hole in the wall with his head.
Kind of acting a bit like Leland Bob when Leland Bob was trapped in it. This is tough. What did you think of seeing Johnny Horne? I always loved Johnny Horne. I know some people have actually written to say, well, maybe on previous podcasts we've done about, possibly making fun of Johnny, somebody who in a scene that was scripted but never aired on the show, it felt like it was an emotional problem and trauma that put Johnny into his state of being like a 12-year-old. But I always liked Johnny Horne on the show.
Sure.
And so what do you think about this scene? Did you like that it was starting off? This could possibly be our third person portraying Johnny Horne because this time it's an actor named Eric Rondell. Instead of the show, it was Robert Bauer for most of the show, but for the pilot, it was yet a different actor. The Twin Peaks pilot had one actor. For the rest of the show, it was a second actor, and now a third actor is Johnny Horne.
Yeah, I was hoping, R.I.P. Johnny, if that's exactly what happened, or if he just, conked himself on the coconut and knocked himself out. But if I was hoping that one way or another, whether it's a trip to the hospital or a trip to the morgue, that we're going to get Audrey back, and I was let down. So I don't know if that's coming at this point. I would have liked to have seen it because we didn't even really see Sylvia.
No, we barely saw her. I should point out that Johnny, the way this is kind of framed, not only did Leland bash his head, but Cooper possessed Bob smashed his head at the Great Northern Bathroom, the very last scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it kind of comes across like when Johnny smashed his head, he knocked down a picture that was on the wall, maybe a couple of pictures, and one of the pictures was of the falls there by the Great Northern.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Poor Johnny. Poor Johnny.
Poor Johnny. We don't know. Do you think he's dead?
I wouldn't imagine he was dead. I really hope he's not dead. There was some behind-the-scenes talk. Now, I don't know if this is true, but way back when, people are talking about we haven't seen Audrey Horne on the show. Way back when this was happening, there apparently was some disagreement, you would call it, between the actress who plays Audrey Horne, the lovely Sherilyn Fenn. And so apparently they weren't sure if Sherilyn Fenn was going to do it, and so then they theoretically had to reshoot some stuff. And apparently when they reshot some stuff, they had to recast Johnny Horne. That was the rumors online. I feel terrible that I'm saying that they're rumors online, but apparently it was either the pilot Johnny Horne or Robert Bauer. But then when they had to reschedule when they were going to do the Audrey Horne stuff, they ended up having to cast yet a third Johnny Horne. So that was the rumor way back when they were filming this, over a year ago.
Right.
I hope he's not dead. Once again, I always liked him on the show. And theoretically, this is a new storyline that's going to take us, once again, it's just getting up to bat. Here we are at the halfway point.
We don't know what it is. And just real quick to point out, the other picture, we can't see all of it, but what we can see is the top head of of Ike's. It wasn't Ike the Spike, but Dwight Eisenhower's head in the other picture that got knocked to the ground. So, not sure exactly what that might be in reference to, if anything, but I just thought I'd point it out.
No, it's a good call. Next, we could jump ahead to Benjamin Horne at his office following up on the hum with Beverly. But next, I want to get to the next chronological scene in Twin Peaks. I really liked this a lot. Dana Ashbrook, Bobby Briggs, coming in and seeing his mom, the actress Charlotte Stewart, playing Betty Briggs.
Your old friend.
This, I really thought Charlotte Stewart gives a great performance, doesn't she? She really has to kind of spout out a lot of exposition, and I think she does it very strongly. I think Dana Ashbrook does a real good job. This would be very awkward if you're a deputy. Hey, Mom, how you doing? We can't have too much fun. It's official business, and I really like this scene a lot.
I agree, and she shares a lot of extremely important information that she could have shared at any time, but she waited. Well, she could have, right?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I had the same thought.
It's been in her chair this whole time. Now we know why she never gave it to the Twin Peaks annual furniture auction for the Boys and Girls Club. But thank God she didn't. And she shares it as if, she's been waiting to do it.
It's the red chair. It's the red chair. It's not the red chair Lucy wants, but it is. This is the chair.
It's clearly it's broken. Lucy can get a much better chair, I think. This chair has all sorts of secret compartments in it. Who knows what else is in there? Lucy and Andy and Wally would be much better off with a different chair, if you ask me. But anyway, that's the furniture portion of the show.
Let me ask you to speculate, Mork. Did Major Briggs come to this information because he has been able to travel through time? Did he get this information and then, from Bill Hastings in whatever year this is at, 2014, 2017, whatever year this present day stuff is in, and then return back and get this information and implant it in the past? I almost want to say he must have. Is Major Briggs witnessing what were this scene? Because how else would he know that Bobby, Sheriff Truman, and Hawk would come to the house? How's he doing this?
I don't know. I really don't know. But he has to have. I guess it's unlikely in my mind for Major Briggs to not know the coordinates if he had been spending time with Bill and Ruth, in terms of what they discovered, how they discovered, even if by doing a lot of reading, how they discovered what they did discover in terms of the coordinates, where that Major Briggs couldn't with all his crazy telescopes in the woods. I don't know. I look forward to hearing about it. But it does feel like, there's a little bit of that. And going back to, this is season 2, where, Briggs, when he showed up wearing, the 1940 style aviator, goggles and leather jacket, after he had disappeared when he was on the about to go on the fishing trip with Coop. So there may have been a little bit of that going on as well. So I think in terms of Major Briggs, we've seen him. We know about previously, and I think it was in episode 3 or 4, where we saw his head floating through one of the back lots of Dune, and we've known all along that he is certainly aware and comfortable in these other dimensions. So I think yes. I think we're still gonna, and I think there's a lot we have yet to learn about what Briggs is able to do and witness and communicate, even if he doesn't have a head anymore.
Let's go to the next location we see in Twin Peaks, and this we're following up on Jerry Horne. And what in the world is going on with Jerry Horne? Do you take this to be a trip from some drug, some marijuana that he's selling that's happened to him? Or is Jerry Horne, because he's out in those woods, is he having, dare I say it, a bit of a possession? Mike had his arm. Is Jerry Horne having his foot? What did you take it to be?
Well, people's arms do get numb. He definitely does seem to be having some issues with his foot. Maybe T-Mobile pulled their sponsorship, and the man from the other place is now going to be played by Jerry's leg. I don't know, but yeah. I don't know. I think he's probably just been sampling some of his own wares. That's my guess. But I don't think that his foot has anything to do with the strange humming going on in Ben's office or Glastonbury Grove. But I could be proved wrong.
Well, who said the voice that was "I was not your foot"? Did Jerry say it himself? Is it a voice in his head? If you don't think this is possible, lodge entities or something really supernatural happening with his foot, then who do you think said that stuff?
I think Jerry ordered multiple golden shovels from Dr. Amp, and because he ordered so many, some of the gold paint hadn't dried, and so Jerry was inhaling spray paint fumes, and he's imagining all of this.
All right, well, okay, that story is now on rounding first. How about that? The investigation, though, it's going pretty well, don't you think? They come back into the sheriff's station. I felt a bit bad for terrible Deputy Chad. They kick him out of the conference room. He's not supposed to be eating in there, but then they don't end up using the conference room. It's a bit like, get out of here so we can use this room.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we can't use this room.
Well, I mean, let's just point out, Deputy Chad, I think this is the reason why Deputy Chad hasn't been able to get rid of those last few, shed those last few pounds of holiday weight, is because Deputy Chad is having 2 frozen dinners and a bowl of soup, and it looks like a cup of coffee. So,
Mork, you are body shaming everybody. What's going on? Where is the hate? What's the hate for?
Look, I want everyone to resemble either Frank Truman or the T-Mobile tree.
Okay, all right, good. There we go. So Bobby knows the way to open up this kind of secret thing. You slam it. When you slam it, the way I took it, that hum was the exact same hum that's happening at the Great Northern. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's the way I took that hum to be. Inside it, we have some very, very tiny sheets of paper. And I just want to talk about these sheets of paper for a bit. It has 2 triangles on it, almost like those 2 scars Major Briggs got on the back of his neck, right behind his ear when he disappeared into it, but only 2 triangles. We have a red dot. Then we also have like a kind of a crescent moon above the symbol that Mr. C is looking for. The symbol that was on that playing card back in part 2. Here it is on Major Briggs' card. Is it a symbol of the experiment? Is it an owl? Is it a new version of the owl cave symbol? Holy smokes. We've got 253. And then once again, things that I took to maybe mean dates. 10-1, 10-2. That would be October 1st and 2nd. Holy smokes, the threads are coming together. We got to get everybody to Twin Peaks. This is it. This is the way we can maybe get Cooper back.
Well, Yes, but did it? Uh, See, this is the kind of scene that kind of drove me a little bit nuts. Where I'm enjoying all this, and I like Bobby being able to figure this stuff out. But then, we have Sheriff Frank telling us, "Oh, well, it looks like something is going to happen at 2:53 tomorrow and the day after that." It's just something is we've been waiting how many years? How many years has this thing been hidden in the couch? And Betty Briggs has been waiting to share this message, and then it's 30 years up, but we got to wait till tomorrow. So maybe they can do a little bit of a stakeout. I don't know. It just felt like they would sort of leap into motion a little bit more than they did.
Well, hold on. Let me give it up to Major Briggs and Betty Briggs. Think about it, Mork. If she had given this immediately over to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Station 25 years ago when Major Briggs perished in that fire, would the sheriff's station always go out to this place in the woods, which I'm assuming where Jack Rabbit's palace is, every 25 years? At a certain point they would say, okay, we've gone out to this place 20 straight years on October 1st and 2nd at 2:53. Nothing's happening. Let's forget about it. So it did have to be handed over at the right place at the right time.
I guess so. I don't know, but it does bring up the question of like, okay, well, if Briggs can really control, hopping through these dimensions, and he was hibernating, according to Bill Hastings, then, maybe they could have done this a few years back, but David Lynch and Mark Frost weren't interested in doing a show then, so it would have all been for naught. So I'm glad that Betty and Major Briggs waited until this week to reveal this information.
I love the fact that this is just a behind-the-scenes thing, that when they go out into the parking lot of the sheriff's station, what do you see behind Bobby? You see this old burned-down lumber mill, this old mill behind them that's just kind of gone to rot. Just so everybody knows, back when they did the Twin Peaks pilot, that was actually the lumber mill right there that they filmed at. That was the Packard Mill. Of course, the show never implied that it was literally right next to the sheriff's station. But right. That was the Packard Mill. And so it's fun seeing it. It's fun seeing these old locations in their new state. I really liked it a lot. Any prediction of what's going to happen on October 1st and 2nd at 2:53?
I have no idea, but I would stay away from all electrical devices and especially electrical outlets at that time.
Well, someplace that is giving possibly an electrical hum that the service guys at the Great Northern can't figure out, it's this hum which Ben Horne and Beverly keep trying to find. It seems to be focused around that lamp. Is it the wood? Is it the lamp? I've always kind of felt it had to do with electricity, even though there is so many instances in the history of Twin Peaks of people being trapped in the wood.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think of this, not quite seduction, this kind of two people coming together and Ben Horne being a gentleman? Any thoughts?
I'm not going to go as far as calling him a gentleman, but yeah, he definitely showed more restraint here than he probably has in his entire life, and particularly because of what we know that Beverly's what's going on in Beverly's family life. It's probably like, you know what, probably best to just let this opportunity go by, Ben. But what and I think what we talked about previously is, well, what if it's Josie who's making that home and she's stuck in the wood? I don't know exactly how that she died much further away when she got caught up in the drawer pull, but just because of her relationship with Ben, and also because Ben's turned this new leaf, I always thought it'd be kind of fun for her to come back to kind of haunt him a little bit. But yeah, we will see. Hopefully hopefully they fix it, and maybe it was just vibrating from Johnny Horne, just hitting the wall so hard.
Oh, wow, Mork, come on! Oh my lord, that's some tough take right there.
Well, they call me the ninja. So we head to the Double R, where we're expecting things to wind down.
You mean the Roadhouse? The Roadhouse.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah. So we head to the Roadhouse, and I don't know if any of our double L's,
loyal listeners,
thank you, are watching Glow at all. But apparently, Sheila the She-Wolf's little sister has gotten herself a job on Twin Peaks. This young lady seems to be pretty. She seems to have spent a lot of time in the woods recently.
You think that's what's given her this rash? So these two girls, it's Ella and Chloe, according to the credits. Ella is the blonde with the rash who seems to have been fired from one burger joint and gone across the street to work at a different burger joint. So she's got this just hideous rash. People online were tweeting, please don't give us, we had 2 minutes of sweeping. Don't give us 2 minutes of rash scratching.
I did not need to see any of that, actually. Yeah, I was with that. No close-ups, por favor.
Is it possible that Ella, once again, the one with the rash, is it possible that she's on these foreign Chinese designer drugs and that's what's giving her the rash? That's exactly where my mind went to, but here we are, Mork. This is one of the things you said you didn't like. Here we are. This is seemingly a brand new story thread, and I'm going out on a limb, even assuming it's a brand new story thread, stepping up to the plate halfway through. Is this something else we're going to have to pay attention to?
Well, even the issue for me is that even if we do have to pay attention to it, it doesn't have any of the stakes that it needs to have. So we might need to pay attention to it. We did see Richard Horne and Balthazar Getty, in a warehouse doing some sort of a deal we saw the connection between Deputy Chad and Richard Horne earlier in the Roadhouse, where these girls are. So there could be a connection there, but. When in seasons 1 and seasons 2, when there was talk of people dealing drugs and cocaine and all of that, those for me, the reasons why that stuff worked so well was we knew these people, and all of those actions were their character flaws, their challenges with morality being that they were examples of that. And in this case, it's all the weight is being, these are real characters with character flaws. In this case, I don't know who this girl is, and she may be hopped up on this Chinese designer drug or North Korean designer drug, but I don't really care. I care about what happened to the little boy that Richard Horne ran over, but as far as him as a budding drug dealer, I'm not as interested in that as I am as I was with Bobby and Mike, and then Leo, and then Hank, climbing up the whole ladder, So that for me is a big difference. I'm not particularly concerned with them tying it all up, and I don't really want them to, unless it's really going to speak to the characters of these people. And for me, at least, halfway through the season, I'm still most concerned with the characters who I met, 25 years ago, and Mr. Z, who we've kind of known this whole time as well. So,
it was back in part 6 where it felt like Red was really going to start to kind of take over as a human antagonist, and he was giving hell to Richard Horne. But in part 7, we had Andy following up on the truck, which killed the little boy. Kind of odd in part 9 that we never got back to that investigation. Andy never found out what was going to happen with that farmer who was supposed to meet him.
Yeah.
But these elements, because they are obviously kind of edited out of time, I hope we'll find some justice for that poor little boy who got run down, because we haven't had any follow-up on it. Richard Horne needs to pay the price for what he did, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, for that, and from what we know of how he behaves, how we saw him acting when he was at the Roadhouse. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely somebody who has to go. But if he does or doesn't, I'm okay with that. I'd rather see. I'd much rather see, DougieCoop be resolved in a fun, interesting, satisfying way than, explain anything with, this girl who we just met, or Richard Horne, or, Beverly, or any of that stuff. But you know what? We're only halfway through. They've covered an amazing amount of ground. I think we should make Bubba do a little bit of plot checking at some point. And I don't know if the internet has enough storage to hold the entire plot description, but if we've done a lot in the first 9 weeks, and I think we can finish it up in the next 9 weeks. But I know what I want to be focusing on for sure.
Well, Mork, you keep talking about the second half of the season and the first half, so let's just get to it. We're at the halfway point. Do you have a favorite high, a favorite low? Do you have a favorite part? My favorite part or episode, even though they're not called episodes, my favorite part was part 7. That did feel like a lot of the story threads were coming together. Obviously, this episode, part 9, felt like story threads were still coming together as well. I just personally was more of a part 7 person than a part 8 person. Do you have a favorite part that we've experienced so far?
I mean, part 8 really does stay with you, and I was watching some of it again, this evening, and it was interesting, particularly with Burning Man's Abe Lincoln. That section moved a lot quicker than the first time we saw it. Episodes 1 and 2 I thought were really strong. 7 I liked a lot. I mean, I've liked all of them, so there's a lot of great moments. And
well, you were tough. You say you liked all of them. You were tough. 6 out of 10. You were tough on this one.
Well, I was.
What do they need to do to get back to your good graces, to get back to your great ratings?
Well, I don't, as much fun as you have calling me out for my non-short declarative sentences, I do like it when the show gets to the point, even if it takes me a long time to explain that. Irony of ironies. So
that is a big irony.
So yeah. So I mean, I feel like there's just been overall there's been a little bit more time spent on things, whether it's a whole 9 Inch Nails song, or 4 minutes of a guy sweeping, or 2 or 3 minutes of Andy and Lucy this week arguing over a chair, getting up, walking over to each other's computers, that whole dynamic. So that stuff, I think at this point we kind of know who these people are, and I want to see them doing more as opposed to just being who they are.
All right. Well, that was it. That's the first half of Twin Peaks: The Return. We're halfway through. We're going all the way to September, everybody. This is going to be a crazy, wild ride. Who knows what to expect the rest of the way? I want to point out that next week, listeners, we're going to have the craziest Sunday night ever. Why? Because the Double P Podcast Network, we do a bunch of television show recaps, including Twin Peaks. That includes Game of Thrones, where we're going to launch up episode coverage on our The Joffrey of podcast. We also cover The Strain. It's back for its season 4 next Sunday night. That podcast is entitled Got Your Milk. So next Sunday night, that's going to be our last kind of nightly episode for a while, because I'm going on my summer vacation for a bit. Everybody get ready. Part 10, let's do it. Part 10 has got the subheading, Laura is the one. So, Mork, if you like it when they get to the point, I think there's a chance. Obviously, I'm just going off this one little sentence, Laura is the one. I have a chance that these threads are going to keep coming together in part 10. That's my crazy belief. We'll have to see what happens.
We will see. We will see. Well, Bubba, this has been an adventure not only in not so short declarative sentences, but applying today's modern technology to our podcasting efforts.
Yeah, we'll be next to each other next week. It'll be great.
We're gonna be next to each other for about 9 hours, so I'm looking forward to it. And I will wear all of my colognes, all of my different versions of Old Spice. You'll enjoy them next week. Okay,
listeners, let us know what you thought about Part 9. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast plural. Facebook.com/double P podcast. Let us know your thoughts on Part 9 and your thoughts on the first half of this 18-part experience on our Facebook page. We want to know what you think. For everybody here on Twin Peaks, The Gifted
and The Damned,
my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM, at FitandTrim on Twitter.
And Mork, as always, is at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the final R.
We'll see you next week. This is the chair. Chair, 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 chair.